Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. Today we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, as Miss Amanda called it, and I have now named the elephant Teddy. She is a pink elephant. She is very wonderful. Sometimes you have to name the thing you fear to kind of give it a little less power. And that's what I did when I was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. My fear was I was disappearing. My fear was I was a liar. My fear was I was crazy. And my fear was that I was a bad person. Being diagnosed with mental illness is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and the worst. I'll be honest with you, some days are not easy. Some days are really hard. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the diagnosis in a second, but in general, I'm not talking about just myself. I'm talking about people with mental illness in general. Days can be really tough, and that's okay. But what's not okay, just people that we'd like to have in our lives that we feel close to, sometimes disappear on us because they don't know how to handle this diagnosis. Whatever the diagnosis may be, people sometimes bail on you because you're weak or crazy. I personally don't understand why when a person comes to you and says, I have a mental illness, this is what it is, this is what I'm dealing with, your response would be, oh, okay, I'm never going to call you again because you're scary. So we're not going to hurt you. We are more likely to hurt ourselves. And if we do hurt you, it's not out of anger at you. It's usually out of fear. It's usually out of chaos in our own minds. It's not a personal vendetta against you. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is what dissociative identity disorder is. Now, I'm going to give you basic facts. And then after that, I would like you guys to leave in the comments questions you have for me specifically about my diagnosis. Now, what I mean is, once I explain to you what the symptoms are, you guys are going to have a few questions. Because everyone always has a few questions. I don't want there to be an elephant between us. I would love Teddy, the elephant, to stay around and to be friends with all of us because she's a pink elephant and Teddy is just awesome. But the fact is, the elephant in the room makes the stigma stronger. So we're gonna try and lower the stigma here on this channel between you, my subscribers, and myself, because I feel that the stigma is intensified when you don't ask questions. So I'm going to tell you what dissociative identity disorder is, and then I want you guys to ask anything. I don't care how stupid you think it sounds. I don't care how ridiculous you think it sounds. I don't care how intrusive you think it sounds. Dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. There's still a lot of controversy in the psychiatric world revolving around whether or not my diagnosis itself is real. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is real. What is dissociative identity disorder? Dissociative identity disorder is the existence of two or more distinct personalities. The distinct personalities can do anything they want in terms of who they are. They can be any gender, any age, and they can also be any sexual preferences. They can be straight, gay, bi, asexual. Some of them can even be transsexual, which gets intense, and I will admit that some parts of myself, because I do have multiple genders, get very angry that we are female as a body. There are two distinct types of parts. There are those that can function on a day-to-day basis, which are usually of the age, usually around 16 and over, and they are parts that can function in the real world. They can front as myself, or they can front as the host. I am the host. They can front, and they can behave as I would. They can behave as the host would. And then there are our younger parts, and younger parts are emotional. Younger parts usually hold a lot of the fear, anger, sadness, pain, anything to that extent that associates with the initial trauma. So younger parts usually are pure emotion and behave as such. Now, dissociative identity disorder shows up in a person after a severe trauma, usually repetitively over time, occurs, and it can be emotional, mental, physical, and verbal. Verbal, a lot of people argue about, but I will stick to that one. The verbal battery can definitely distort a person. Younger parts usually hold the memory of the initial trauma deep within themselves, and they respond accordingly. Now, lots of parts have triggers that will cause them to come out and to be the front person, the person in charge of the body. They can be happy triggers, though. For example, it could be that this triggers one of my parts. Now, this is just a little toy. It's a monkey. But the fact is that this could cause somebody within inside of me to come forward and get very excited or be very afraid. So they can be triggered by that in a good way, where they just want to play and they want to hang out and they want to be around and they want to talk to people, or they could be triggered in a bad way and have an emotional response. Now, inside of each person, the host, there is a system. Now, systems can vary. It can be anything from an empty world where nothing exists, but everyone just kind of co-functions as parts, or it can be as complex as a labyrinth, and each part is stuck within the labyrinth and can't get out. It's all very particular to the person. Disassociation, in general, let's call it this. You're driving down the road, and all of a sudden you're home. You don't know how you got you there. You just know you're there and you're safe. Wonderful. You've now disassociated for maybe 15, 20 seconds, maybe an hour, but you know where you are. You know where you've come from, and you know where you've gotten. You're really not sure how you got there, but you have an idea. With dissociative identity disorder, we lose track of time on a large scale. Now, it can vary from 2 minutes to a year. The variations of how much time lapse we can have and what we can suffer from amnesic barriers and fugue states is immense. What happens with the fugue states is the host almost ceases to exist unless they've been working in therapy and have become co-conscious with other alters and are now able to almost see what the alter is doing and hear and be kind of a part of it, but maybe not control anything. I want to kind of give you guys an idea of what it feels like to be in a dissociative identity system. Okay. If you're in a car, I like the car. The car analogy is a good analogy. And I'm going to actually link down below Jamie. She is another dissociative identity survivor. She suffers with 4 multiples. She has all male parts in her system. She is over in the UK, and she's a wonderful woman. She did a great talk. It's about an hour and a half long, but it goes into full detail, and she has all the psychiatric terminology to back her up. But I picked up the car analogy from her. So, you're in a car and you're driving. You are the host. You are in control of the car. For somebody who is co-conscious with you, they're in the passenger seat. They can see everything you can see. They can hear everything you can see, but they can't control the wheel. People in the back of the car, so like the back seat, they can see some of what you can see. They can hear some of what you can hear, and they can't respond to any of it. But they're like aware of it. Now, there also are parts that are all the way in the back in the trunk. They can't hear, they can't see, they can't smell, they don't have any senses that are available to let them know what is happening to them outside. What is happening to the car, they don't know. Now that's scary, to not know what's happening to your own body. The car is your body. If you can't control anything that's happening to your body, that's terrifying. What happens with a switch, depending on which part you switch with, you could switch with the person in the passenger seat when you're co-conscious. You can still see everything, you just can't control the body. You could be in the back seat. You can kind of know what's happening, but you're still struggling and you really have no control. And then there's fugue states, when you end up in the trunk. You've lost track of time, you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you've gone, you don't know how long you've been away or what's happened, and you don't understand how maybe the bump on your head happened or how the cut on your arm happened. You don't know. Now, I'm going to say this right now. This is a trigger warning, so please fast forward because I'm going to discuss very quickly a few things that can happen to the body in general with disassociation. Disassociation can also cause self-harm. People with dissociative identity disorder sometimes do self-harm because the body will self-harm in places and times when they are out of control, when the body is not functioning as themselves, when the body is being taken over by an alter. Self-harm is possible, as well as other things such as eating disorders, sleep insomnia, the list goes on and on. So that there is kind of an overall quick, not quick, but an overall kind of roundabout way of explaining what dissociative identity disorder is. This is what I have. This is what I deal with on a regular basis. This is a common thing for me. Fugue states are pretty common. I've gotten much better at dealing with them, but when I was younger and before I knew the actual terminology for what I had, it was terrifying. Now again, ask questions. Ask me how old some of my ulcers are. Ask me what genders I have. Ask me if I have other sexual preferences inside. Ask me questions. Just ask. Comment down below. Let's get this conversation going. If you don't like this video and you dislike it, I understand, but please refrain from commenting down in the box below about lack of truth, lack of, information, lack of fact. I understand where you're coming from. Direct message me if you feel that strongly, but do not, I repeat, do not make my subscribers feel uncomfortable or like they're not allowed to have a conversation. That is unfair to them, and I will delete the comment. Okay? Okay. I will see you guys in my next video, and I thank you guys for watching this. We will talk about this again soon, but for right now, let's just start here, and I will answer all of your questions in the next video that I do on this. All right? Bye.